Today we are looking at the RODECaster video. We're going to be doing a full walkthrough of this device, looking at all of the ins and outs, all so that you can leverage it to your advantage with your content. Let's get into it. All right, for starters, let's talk about the device itself by just looking at the exterior. We have a bunch of buttons and dials and a lot of different ports on the back here. And I want to break down what all of these are. So for starters, this right here is your power cable. You'll want to go ahead and plug that in, and to turn the device on, there's this little red button right over here. You'll want to go ahead and push that, and that will power on the device. From here, we can start plugging some things in. So let's talk about what each of these ports are. For starters, we have this 1 and 2. These are actually combo jacks. It can take XLR or 1/4-inch instrument cables. Either one will work, they're interchangeable, which is pretty cool. So if you have an XLR microphone or you want to plug in a guitar, this is where you would plug them in. Next to this, we have audio outputs. This first row, L and R, is meant to be used to an external speaker. You can plug in stereo left and right. The next row is meant for headsets. So you can have up to 2 different monitors. If you're doing a podcast, you and your guest can have it, however you want to break it down. You can each have your own mix, which is pretty cool. But ultimately, they take 1/4-inch cables, so not aux. So you're going to need to get an adapter or use a headset that is proper to connect here. Moving on, we have A and B. This is represented in that orange and black cable. These are going to be what is sent out to your external monitors, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Then we have these ports here, 1 through 4. These are going to be your HDMI sources, whether it's your cameras or a computer send. This is where you would plug all of that stuff in. Then we have 5 USB-C ports. The first USB-C port is what I have plugged in right now, and that's actually sending this whole video and audio send to my computer. So it's kind of like an output from the device into my computer. The second port is meant to connect to the device when you just want to mess around with firmware or the app, which you can still do on one. But yeah, if you don't really care about sending out the video and all that, you can just plug into 2. Then there is port number 3, and I'm actually having a external drive plugged into that right now because I'm recording this whole tutorial onto that. So that's on USB-C 3. And then there's 4 and 5. This is meant for cameras or microphones, audio interfaces. You can plug in as more inputs. So you can have a total of 6 different camera sources if you utilize these USB-C connections. You'll just want to make sure this is a UVC file for your webcams. So in my testing, there's quite a few cameras that are not working with this as of now. The DJI Osmo Pocket 3, the Instago 3S, the GoPro, the ZV-1 Mark II. All of those that I own and have tried do not work. They'll show that they're connected, but the signal will just be blacked out. So you're going to need to get webcams that are UVC. Like right now, I'm using the Sony A7C Mark II. And it does work with this USB-C. I have not found any sort of master list. If I ever come across one, I will try to include it in this video. But I did want to mention that to save you some trouble if you're trying to connect one of those devices that I've mentioned. All right, moving along from there, going back to this little angle here, we have our power cable. And we also have a little Ethernet port right here if you want to plug into the network. Or right above that, you guys can see maybe a little bit better here, is actually a micro SD card slot. And that's what you will use to import all of the videos or media, lower thirds. All that stuff will be imported onto the micro SD card. I'll show you guys how to do that in just a little bit. But one thing I want to mention here, I'll probably mention it there too, you'll need to plug in the micro SD card and actually format it before you can see the add media button within the app. Again, I'll talk about that later, but just in case you come across that here, I wanted to mention it. And then beyond that, we also have these 2 antennas that you can plug in because this whole device can actually connect to your computer wirelessly, which is pretty cool. And I'll show you guys how to do that in just a little bit. Now let's talk about the overall layout of this device and its controls. So for starters, we have this big red button up here. This is kind of more or less just an indicator. You can start and stop recordings. When it's not recording, it is green. When it is recording, it is red. And if you're not recording, but maybe you're doing live streams, you can see that indicator and have some control over that as well. Over here are two dials and buttons. So you can actually push these in or scroll with them to control things like volume or just navigate the menu. And then this little one over here is going to give you your output for your different audio outputs. So again, that would be what you have connected over here. So if you have a headset plugged in, you can control its volume. And if you need to quickly switch to the other headset, just push it and you can control that volume separately, or the external output to the speakers there if you're running it that way. So that's how you can quickly navigate those things with those two button dials. All right, let's talk about this button layout down here. 1 through 6 is going to be showing you what your camera sources are here. So for example, let's just walk through them all. On angle number 1, as if I switch to 1, that's actually this shot right here. If I switched instead to 2, that's going to be this camera angle. If I switch to 3, that's going to be my screen. If I switch to 4, that's going to be the top-down shot. And when I switch to 5, that is the front angle here. Beyond this, we also have an open slot because I'm not using camera 6. If I had it plugged in, which I have a space for over here on the USB-C 4, if I had that plugged in, it would light up and I could switch to it. And then next to this is a blackout button. So if I go ahead and click this, it'll black out just like that. All right, so that's all of our sources plus the blackout. Above this, we have our scenes. So let me go ahead and switch to scene A, and I'll show you how it's a little different. Boom, we're in scene A now. I've got a camera as well as this cool little picture-in-picture effect. So let me show you instead now if I switch to scene B. Boom, there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? We've got graphics, we've got multiple cameras, you know, scaled and borders and all sorts of stuff. So you can get really custom. And it's really these scenes up here that you can program ahead of time, either using the built-in board or the app. And you can recall them on the fly during your show. You can load up media, whatever it is you want to do. So these are our scenes. We have our sources and our scenes. Let's talk about these 4 icons right here. For starters, we have this kind of video looking icon. If we select this, it's going to pull up our loaded media, which again, we're loading via the mini SD card. So we have videos and graphics. Let's go ahead and select graphic C. We've got this cool little graphic background. And I can go ahead and fire a video as well. So let's check that out. Pretty cool. So this is where you can load up your media. Let's move on to the second icon here. This is going to be your overlays. So I have a couple of overlays that I have imported into here. If I go ahead and select the first one, you'll see it pop on and I can deselect it to turn it off. And that's how that works. Moving along, we have our third one, which is going to be picture-in-picture. When I select this, this is how I can essentially build those more complex scenes like I was showing you. So for starters, over here, we have this kind of like A-B icon. If I select this, I can actually choose different layouts. So when I'm in this particular layout, I have options for background, camera A or B. So if I go to background, say I want to use my media, I can select my media button and choose a media source. Boom, that has been applied. Now I'm selecting camera A, let's choose 5. And then for camera B, let's choose 4. And we'll go ahead and select it. And then we can hold an empty scene to save. So let's go ahead and hold it to C. Boom, we just saved what we've created to C. Let's now switch to it. Here's our cool little layout that we created. Pretty cool. So if you want to do something a little bit different, maybe we can go back to picture-in-picture, click this, and let's select a different source. Maybe we'll do 4 next to each other since we have so many cameras connected. Let's go ahead and choose the background, which it just pulled our background element already. That's fine. And then camera A, let's do 5 is good, 4 is good. Let's go ahead and just do 2 and 1. So we'll go ahead and select that. And we're not going to save it this time, but we are just going to cut to it. Boom. Now we have 4 different elements going on. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how to navigate those picture-in-picture effects. But for now, let's talk about the next icon, which is going to be for green screens. I'm going to go ahead and switch to this angle, and let's actually pull up my green screen. This way I can really show you guys it in action. All right, we've got the green screen up. Let's hop back into our top-down shot. So in order to access this, we're going to first select the camera we want to operate on. So I'll choose 5, and then I'm going to choose the green screen effect, and I can see that 5 is highlighted. And now we're going to either be able to choose between green or blue. So for us, we're using green, and we want to just go ahead and choose transparent so that we can knock it out. And then when I cut to that angle now, it's going to be blacked out, which is pretty cool. So the cool thing about this is we can actually take this keyed out image and we'll be able to actually apply it over top of a scene, like a screen recording or like, my screen send over here, which is pretty awesome. So that's a cool feature of the green screen, and I'll show you guys how to do that in just a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and actually, I guess we'll remove the green screen. So select 5, we can see that the green screen effect is on this camera source. So let's go ahead and select that and choose remove. And now it's gone. So when I cut back to it, we're back into our main shot and the green screen is actually still visible because it's not being keyed out right now. Moving along, next to this, we have our touchscreen menu as well as these 3 icons. Let's first talk about these icons. Right here is our inspect button. So if I click the inspect button, I can tap a button to inspect it. Let's choose camera source 5. And that's going to tell me a little bit of information about that source. Maybe instead I want to inspect one of my scenes. It's going to tell me a templated information about the scene. So you can use the inspect button to get some quick info about what's going on with your different scenes and sources. Also, I just want to mention the inspect button can also be used to do other things like move and delete your scenes. Just click this little menu and then you can select move or delete. We'll go ahead and select move. Then just tap where you want that scene to move. And that's it. You went ahead and swapped it with whatever other scene you chose. And if you want to delete it, you can go to the menu and hit delete, confirm it, and now that scene is gone. And we can go ahead and see that if we cut to something different, now you see it's empty. That's pretty much all there is to it. And again, if you want to save a new scene, just select the scene you want and then hold it on the empty slot to save your scene. Next, we have the auto and cut buttons. These are both used to navigate your scenes. For example, right now, if I select, maybe camera 2, if I hit cut, it's going to do a hard cut to camera 2, which I'll do in 3, 2, 1. What's up? I'm on camera 2 now, and I'll cut back. Now, instead of hitting cut, if I choose to do auto instead, it's actually going to apply a transition. What's up? I did a cool little fade transition there, and I'll do it back. These will actually change a little bit depending on the type of switching mode that you have selected, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. One other thing that you can do with auto is you can hold it down to engage the auto switching. And I'll show you guys how to do that more later, but I wanted to go ahead and mention it there. Moving along, let's talk about the screen. So right here up at the top, we have some volume level indicators. And then below that, we have some quick information about what our board is currently doing. So for example, right now I'm recording, so you can see how long I've been recording for. And if I was streaming, then you would see that below where it's grayed out. That's good. That would give you your live indicator for how long you've been streaming. Moving on, we have these 4 panels. This first panel is going to be the type of transition that will happen when you choose auto. So if I select into that, you can see we have fade, dip, and wipe. We've already seen fade, so let's select dip. And now if I hit auto, it's going to dip to black. and it will dip to black. And then if I choose instead to do wipe, it's going to do a little wipe across the screen. Boom, boom. And then this little panel next to it will determine how long that will happen. So let's do something like 3 seconds now. And now we have a much slower wipe transition going across the screen. So you have the ability to do that if you would like to. Most of the time, I would recommend doing fade and going back to 0.5 like they have it by default. Because if you're going to do the transition, I feel like this is a little bit more less distracting. But personally, most of the time, I would just use the cut. All right, moving along, we have our last two little panels here, the gear icon and the little audio levels. If we tap into the gear icon, this is going to give us really the rest of the menu. So in our tabs here, we have video, storage, device, audio delay, multi-track, and back to video. Let's go ahead and click into video. And here we can see we have HDMI A and B and a couple of other options as well. But let's talk about this A and B. So again, this is going to be calling back to what we talked about earlier with our external outputs here. So if I select HDMI A, you'll see that I have a couple of options here. I can do program, preview, and multi-view. Let me go ahead and switch to a different angle so I can really show you guys what's actually going on. All right, so over here we have the board and it's being plugged into these two external monitors, which gives me a lot of different information. So this big monitor over here is actually HDMI B, and this one is HDMI A. So let's start by selecting HDMI B here. So again, we're HDMI B, and we can see that on HDMI B, we have the program selected. So this big monitor is showing the overall output, the end result, the program. If I change this instead to be multi-view, boom, I have a lot of new stuff that I'm looking at. So let me break down this multi-view window and kind of explain what's going on. So this red square right here, this is going to be your program shot, what the final output, what is live right now. This green one is what you will be switching to next. So for example, if I change this to 2, now I can see that when I hit cut, I'm going to switch to this angle. But right now, until I hit cut, I'm still on the red. Let's go ahead and hit cut. Boom, we can see that it's switched. Now I will be live here. And if I hit cut again, I switch back, and this is what the program would be. Now beneath this, I see all of my scenes that I have built and all of my video sources. So I can get all that information at a quick glance. And then I can also see my audio sources here and where the levels are, what's muted, what's not. I have some information about my recording and how much storage I have left. If I'm live, I would have a quick glance information there. So yeah, that's kind of breaking down what this is. And I also have it on this monitor over here. So let's say instead that I want to go back into HDMI A, and instead of having the multi-view here, let's make it the preview window. So now this is going to show me the shot that I will be switching to, but not what is live right now. So example, if I choose maybe 3, it will change there. But again, my live output is still this shot. So those are all options you have of how you can configure it. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to what I actually want to see, which is HDMI A being the multi-view and HDMI B being the program. So now I've got my final shot there that I can monitor, and I've got my multi-view shot over on this monitor, so I can get all my info at a quick glance. Moving along, we have our frame rates. So I can't change my frame rates right now. They're grayed out, but that's because I'm recording. However, if you're not recording, you can go ahead and change everything. I would recommend for the most part doing 30, unless you have very specific reasons to do something else. You may want to do 24. You can go up to 60. So maybe if you're gaming, you might want to look into 60. But for most people, I think 30 is going to be the sweet spot, as most platforms are going to kind of compress and realter your video to be 30 anyways. So moving along from frame rates, we have switching. And this is where things also get a little bit interesting. If you have been trying to follow along and mess around with your RODECaster and things are behaving a little different, like maybe you select one of the sources and it changes right away, that's going to be reflected in this setting right here. So moving along back to video and switching, you have studio or instant. If I change this to instant, now when I go back into a scene, say I want to click 5, I'm no longer going to have to select it, then cut to it. It's going to cut automatically. So I hit 5 and now I'm on 5. I hit 4, I'm on 4, 3, 2, 1, and so forth. So that's probably how I would use it most of the time, depending on what I was doing. I could see this being more useful for a live stream as a solo creator. But for the use case of actually filming the device in this tutorial, it's a lot easier to show you guys what's going on when I'm in the studio mode. So let's switch back to studio. And so now again, if I do the studio mode and I select 5, then I have to hit cut or auto, and that's how that would work. One other thing I want to mention with this, if I go back into the switching options in instant, if you want to get the transitions to happen when you select, you'll just need to change from cut to auto. So select auto, it's lit up. Now when I change, it's going to have those transitions versus cut, it's going to be hard cut. So hopefully that will help you if you were confused on that. Now let's go back to switching, studio, boom. And we're back at it. So moving along, that was all of our video options. Now we're going to go to our next icon, which is storage. Clicking into here, we can see information about devices we have plugged into here. So my Samsung T5 is going to be that external drive. If I click into that, it tells me how much storage I have free. And if I wasn't recording right now, I would have the options to erase it or format it. Moving along to the micro SD, same thing. If I wasn't recorded, I could do more stuff like eject it, erase it, format it. But this is where you would do that right here. Again, I would definitely make sure to format your micro SD card in order to be able to properly move the media onto it. And that is one area that you can do it and what I would recommend doing. So just wanted to mention that. Moving along to device. When we click into here, we have network, brightness, date and time, and about. Let's talk about network. If you have an Ethernet connected, this is where you'll see some information about it. Moving on, we can see our Wi-Fi. So you can select into here and choose to turn it on. And then if you need to disconnect or reconnect the Wi-Fi, you can. And you'll need to do this in order to connect wirelessly to the device. Moving along, we have some advanced information here about our wireless and our Ethernet. Next is our brightness. This is just going to be the brightness of the screen. I have it turned down right now. Most of the time I would leave it at 100%, but for the sake of exposing my shot better so you guys can see the screen, I've turned it down. Moving on, we have our date and time. I have mine set to Eastern. You can simply scroll through and select yours. And then we have about. If we click into here, this is where you can check for updates. You can also see the status of the device, which is like the device name and the temperature. So if you're starting to run it too hot or too much, it will tell you, which is really handy. This is where you can reset the device and also where you can import other shows. Really, you'll want to go into the Rode Central app where you can select this little button up here, and this is where you can import, export, and load the default shows. So let me go ahead and show you how to export your show. Hit export, navigate to a folder that you want to save it to, and it will start to save. If you want to import your show, you can choose import. Be aware this is going to delete all the media on the micro SD card and replace it with whatever show you have chosen. And it will just take a few minutes depending on how much media you have, and then your show will be imported with all of your scenes and media. And you can always click right here to load the default Rode show. And over here to the side, you can change the logo of the show. This will essentially be used as like a watermark if you choose to use it. Next up in our menu is audio delay. Let me explain real quick what this means. So audio delay is essentially what needs to happen in order for your video to be synced up well. If it's not being delayed, chances are your video and your audio will be a little bit out of sync. The reasoning for this is because the video cameras are being sent over HDMI, and the video signal just takes a little bit longer to get to the device than the audio does. The audio is usually really fast. And so because of that, it may look a little bit out of sync. Let me show you guys what I mean. We'll switch over to angle 4 and hop on over to audio delay. And let's go ahead and turn this off, or turn it to 0. Now my audio delay is at 0. You'll probably notice that it looks a little bit off. It doesn't really line up the same way. It's not looking synced up. So we're going to hop back into here and we're going to do some more audio delay to 7. And I believe this is probably looking a bit better. It probably looks like it's synced up a little more natural and lined up. So that's where you would go to adjust that. Next up, we have Multitrack. This is grayed out right now because I'm currently recording, but really all you need to know about Multitrack is there's 2 options. There's Program and ISO. Choose ISO. Program is only going to record the finalized program output. It's not going to get all your individual tracks. When you choose ISO, you're going to get your program and all of your sources individually, which means you'll get all of your separated video and audio files, so you can go back in and re-edit it if you need to, or recut it, retrim it, whatever it is that you might need. The other thing that's in there is being able to choose specifically about your audio if you want the effects to go pre-fader or post-fader, which essentially means, do you want the raw audio signal or do you want the audio to be recorded with any plugin effects already applied? So pre-fader would be the raw audio, post would be everything else is applied to it. Personally, for most people, I would recommend choosing pre because you're going to have the most amount of flexibility and control to add in your own plugins and stuff after the fact if you want to do it that way. It's all up to you. There's no right or wrong. So let's talk about this last icon. These are like your audio levels and mixing. So if we click into there, we'll see a new screen. So up at the top is going to be your audio source. So you can go through and select which audio source you want to mess with. And then within this, we have some options. So if we actually hold down this button, this will mute or unmute the channel, which is pretty cool. And then we can also slide this fader to adjust the volume levels. And we can even click into this little icon next to it to get access to some EQ options, which is like your depth and sparkle, stuff like that. So we can hold to enable. So if we hold this down, it will enable it. We can go through, rotate to adjust, boom. We can click it to adjust the next one and the punch. So pretty cool. And then we'll go ahead and hold and that disables it. And then there's the little gear icon, which is going to tell you a little bit more about the channel. This is my guitar instrument cable right here. So it's indicated there. There's some linking options, which I'll show you guys in a little bit in the app. And then there's your overall gain. So you can adjust all that stuff right there. And then if you scroll through your channels over here at the end, this is where you can add or remove new channels. Again, I can't really get into this right now because I am currently recording, so I'm kind of already set with what I have. But this is where you can go mess with that if you needed to. You can also do it in the app, which I'll show you guys in just a little bit. That pretty much wraps it up for the overall board itself, but now we're going to move into the app. But first, let's utilize our green screen again. We're going to hop over to camera 5, green screen, transparent, cut to it. And now we're going to move to a pre-built scene where we are overlaid onto the app. So this is the Rode Central app. And this is where you're going to really be able to dive into the nitty-gritty of the board and take it a little bit further than what you can do with just the board itself. So for starters, you'll need to select the RODECaster video right here. Make sure it's plugged into the computer or connected via Wi-Fi. So we've got scene builder, audio mixer, device configuration, auto switching, and stream profiles. Let's start with scene builder. When you click it, it's going to pull up this little window over here where you can really start to customize everything within the app. So let me break down what this window means. So up at the top, we see there's media library, and then there's this little record icon, streaming info if you're doing that. And then right over here is where you can see all of your media. This is reflected by the micro SD card. So for starters, if you plug this thing in and you don't see this add media button, it's because you need to format your card. I made that mistake. I could not figure out how to import media at all. But once it's formatted, you should see this button. And then you can go ahead and click add media. It will pull up your window and you can go find files that you want to bring into here. Something I want to mention about these files is they have to be, for videos, .mp4. They have to be 1080 size. If they're not, they'll be grayed out on your device. So if you're wondering, why can't I bring this video in? It's probably because it needs to be .mp4 instead of .mov. Once you make those changes, then you're able to import different graphics and videos right here. Moving along, we have kind of like a reflection of the board itself down here. We have our camera sources, the blackout button, we have our different scenes, as well as our 4 icons, our inspect button, auto, and cut. So let me show you how to build out a scene using the scene builder. So I'm gonna go ahead and select an empty slot like D, and we'll see these 2 options pop up over here. We have template or custom. Let's go ahead and choose template. From here, we have all of those picture-in-picture effects like we looked at earlier. We can see, these different icons, or we can do the side-by-side. Let's go ahead and choose side-by-side. And now we have background A and B. So I can go ahead and select background, and I can choose to make that a camera source or a media file. Another way that I can utilize this is if I want to just drag one of my media files onto background, I can do it that way, and now that's been applied. Then we have slots A and B. So let's go ahead and choose A. We'll choose an input as camera 5. Actually, let's do camera 2 because that looks a little funny. And then for B, let's just go ahead and choose camera 4. And there we go. That's basically how you build out a scene. Once you do that, it's already set to D. So if I move away from it, it's still there. And that's how you do it. So then you can also choose if you want to apply borders. That's selected right now. Let's go ahead and make them easier to see by choosing white. And let's just size it up to like 10. And if we wanted to hide these, we can just uncheck it. So you have that kind of flexibility there. And that's pretty much how you can build off of a template. But let's say we want to do a new scene. Let's go to E. And this time we're going to choose custom. It's going to black it out for us. And here we can just start building our own scene. So let's hit this little arrow icon and choose maybe camera 2. And let's just drag this guy by resizing it here. Maybe like that. And maybe we'll bring it in on this side too. And let's just drag the whole thing over and maybe make it right up to the little center line there. And let's add another source. We'll choose camera 4. And let's just drag this guy. Maybe we just want to focus on the touch screen. Do something like that. Let's drag it here. So we can really get more of a close-up view of that little touch screen there. It's a little sloppy, but it's there. This is how you could go about really dragging out and making your own custom scene. So now if I switch to, camera angle 5, or I could switch to here, and we've got a close-up view. It's already saved on scene E. Again, I could apply borders if I want to, and that's pretty much it. Now, if I click into camera 5, then I can click into the key. We can see that it's on right now. I can toggle it off, boom, toggle it back on. And I can choose green, blue, transparent, and I can actually choose advanced as well. And this is going to allow me to mess around with the finite settings of the green screen if I needed to tweak it some. But I'd say it's doing a decent job as is right now. Other than that, we can click into our media here, our overlays here, and really load up everything. So for example, if you want to load up different overlays, you can simply just find an overlay, drag it. It's good to go. So I can fire that. That looks insane. Let's not do that. But yeah, let's do this. We'll drag this on here and pull that on and off. So that's where you can mess around with those. And if you want to delete them, you can delete them like so. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys is how to reassign. So say I like this picture-in-picture scene, but I actually want it on F. Then I can go ahead and choose reassign. I'll choose F. And those have actually switched. So now A is empty, whereas F is there. So let's reassign again, move it back. And that's all there is to it. That's pretty much how you would go about messing around with the scene builder. You also have your little transition options right there as well. Let's go ahead and close this out. And now we're going to talk about the audio mixer. So clicking into here, this is where we can see our different audio sources. So we've got combos 1 and 2, which is going to be represented by these here. And then we also have our video clips and my little wireless mic right here. Now, I do need to briefly mention something about this Rode Wireless Pro microphone and the RODECaster. I have been running into some serious issues. Take a listen. To have connected to this device, and I'm going to start walking through. So it's a pretty easy way to navigate all that stuff. Let me show you now how to do a fully custom scene. I'll also choose a common one. It was to the point that I actually had to re-record this whole menu walkthrough because I didn't do a backup recording the first time. What you're listening to right now is actually the internal backup recording because this problem is still happening. Unfortunately, I do not have any solutions for you at this time. I have reached out to Rode. If I find anything out, I will leave it in a pinned comment below. I believe it's a wireless interference issue. I've only noticed this while using the Rode Wireless Pro and the RODECaster. No issues using any of the other microphone inputs like the combo jacks or my guitar. All of that is fine. Just know if you're going to use the Rode Wireless Pro with this device, currently it's possible that you may run into some issues like I have. Again, if I find a solution, I'll leave it in a pinned comment below. So I'm going to mute my mic for now, and we'll go on to this little studio mic. What's up, guys? So we've moved on to this microphone here, and I'm actually going to click into this little gear icon, and this is going to pull up a ton of different settings that we can start to mess with. Let's break this down. So right over here, we have the gain, and we have our input type. So if we select this, this is where you can change this to instrument if you're using something like a guitar cable, or you could choose the type of mic that you're using. I chose an SM7B for now because this Shure I figured was kind of close to an SM7B. So I figured why not start there. But yeah, then on the sides over here, we have a lot going on. So if we click into this little drop down arrow, we can choose which type of setting we want to mess with. So let's go ahead and click into noise gate. If we click into noise gate, we can see we have all of these different controls to mess with. And I'm really not going to dive into all of these things and what they are in this video because I'm not really trying to do a tutorial on general audio teaching. But this is where you can access everything. I will show you a few things though. If we go inside of the EQ and we want to mess with the curve of our EQ, we can do so by adjusting this high bell and the high gain. So if I bring it down, it's probably going to sound quite a bit different versus if I bring it way up, it probably sounds pretty different. Let's take it around here. Same with like the low gain. If I wanted to not have as much oomph to the microphone, or if I wanted to give it a lot of bass, we can mess with it there. And this is kind of where you can start to adjust how your microphone sounds with the EQ. And there's a ton of other settings that you can dive into here. Now, if I uncheck advanced, I will just go ahead and say continue. Then it's only going to show me this processing. If I uncheck that, it's straight out. So this is now just the raw signal from the mic. Now, if I choose processing, within here we have depth, sparkle, and punch. And these are basically grouping different advanced settings together to do different things. So if I choose depth and bring it down, you can probably hear a little bit of a difference, bring it all the way up, and so on and so forth for sparkle and punch. We do that for sparkle, bring it back up for sparkle, and do it for punch, all the way up, all the way down. So you can mess with just these three settings, and you can do that on the board as well. But if you want to get to that advanced section, you'll need to do it in the app. And this is where you can really get into all of those different options with the EQ. So I just wanted to kind of walk through how that worked. And again, all of that is just for this mic 1. If I wanted to change it, I could select here. And then also, if I wasn't recording right now, I could add in more channels and all that stuff. And I'm currently viewing the live mix, which is really like my output. If I click into this, I can adjust different settings. So for example, if we had the headsets plugged in, this is one area that you could go and adjust the different mixes for said headphones, what they have, what's muted, only per headphone. So that's really nice. You can go in here and mess with a lot of this stuff as needed. You can see your frame delays right here as well. And then just some like overall master settings for the audio as well. And that pretty much covers it for the audio mixing. Moving along, we have device configuration. And here is pretty much already been covered in the device itself. This is just another place to adjust a lot of this stuff. So we've got stuff for video, audio, display, and then our overall system stuff. So this is where we can go through and mess with a lot of that stuff that we've already covered. So just a secondary spot to do it if you prefer messing with the app. So let me go ahead and mute this for a second. I'm going to switch back to my wireless mic just so I can move around a little easier. And we'll come back to this in a second because I want to talk about device configuration. And so device configuration is essentially just all of the same information that we've already gone through in the settings on the board. It's just another place that you can get to it. And then we have auto switching. So moving into auto switching, this is where really a cool feature of the board comes into play, where I can assign cameras to microphones. So when I start talking into a certain microphone, it will switch to that camera. So let's kind of see how we have that set up. Right now I have it set up, so let me just show you what I've done. So I've selected camera 2, and this kind of emulates your overall board again. So if you want to select a scene or a camera, I selected a camera, and I'm going to turn it on. I set the priority to high, and then I chose the link to be combo 1, which is this microphone right here. And then I will also select camera 5, which is this shot right here. And I have linked this to my wireless mic. So let's go ahead and turn auto switching on by holding down auto for 2 seconds until it turns blue. Now auto switching is on, and it's switched automatically because I'm talking into this mic. But if I talk into this mic, it's going to switch to this camera angle. So overall, that's pretty cool. I like it a lot. I think it's a cool feature. In order to turn auto switching off, just simply hit cut or select any scene, and it will disengage auto switching. And again, you can link multiple cameras to multiple things and really get pretty intricate with the way that auto switching works. You'll just want to mess around with the selecting priority to see what works best for you. So the last option over here is stream profiles, and I can't select it right now because I'm currently recording, but I will go ahead and put up a screen recording of what this looks like. It's pretty simple. All you really need to do here is essentially grab your server and stream key and paste it in. You can assign it a name. You can create different destinations or profiles. And then when you want to go live, you can simply select which one you want to do, and you'll be able to stream. So that's pretty easy. The other thing to mention about this, though, is the board itself can be used to send out to the computer via this USB-C 1. And so if you do want to connect to something like Ecamm, StreamYard, OBS, Zoom, you're still able to do that. You'll just need to, again, use USB-C 1, connect it to your computer, and then you'll be able to see the RODECaster video as a video source and an audio source. And then you can pretty much carry on business as usual via one of those streaming services. To actually go live from the device, you can select right here and then choose Go Live, and then hit the green check mark to confirm, and it will instantly go live to your channel. To actually end the stream, you'll need to click right over here and then confirm it. This is going to stop sending stuff to the stream. To actually end it though, you'll need to go into the platform and choose End there. All right, that's pretty much going to wrap up this menu walkthrough. I tried to cover as much as I possibly could. There's a lot packed into this device. There's a lot that it can do, but hopefully after watching this video, you have a deeper understanding of how to navigate it and use it to your advantage with your content. If you enjoy the lighting that's going on in this setup and want to learn a little bit more about that, I have a full video on it right here. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay creative. Peace.